Good morning, Greg.
Well, good morning, Val. How's my sound?
You sound great. It's almost 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and you know what that means, Greg.
Oh, I know what that means. I think it means another secret guest, Val.
Yeah, we have a
Uh,
secret guest dropping by today. Your mic sounds great. You're coming in crystal clear, and I think it's going to be a great day for a broadcast.
every Mondays, every Monday at 11 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time, people can tune in to Val Olson Radio Show on Twitter Spaces. Right, Val?
That's right. You can go to my website, valolsonnews.com, and just get up to date. It's a really clean space where you can get news that's been vetted and sourced by yours truly, so you know you're getting the very best. And speaking of the very best, definitely stop by your website because there's all kinds of information that will just help you get smarter and make you money. And what else, Greg? What else can we find on your website? Meakin.com.
People will get smarter on that website, Val. Are you sure?
I'm positive.
It's fun. As a matter of fact, that little website, gregmeakin.com, which is spelled GREGMEAKIN.com. As you know, Val, there's information there about my book right on the homepage. My website is clean as a whistle and a happy place to be, thanks to our secret guest, as a matter of fact. We'll talk about that. But there's info about my book. The most viewed section of my website is the trending section, where I post all of my new stuff, all my new writings, which, as you know, is edgy and current and up to the minute, real time. And I on the trending section posted there right now. Seriously, Val, I've had so many inquiries that I posted a kind of an update of what I am doing and what I am writing these days. So it's on there, the trending section at gregmeakin.com. But as I say, we'll learn even more about that website and other stories when we chat with our secret guest.
Yes, she is just coming on shortly here. We're just doing a line test right now, and I see that she's in the green room. So we just need her to take her microphone off of mute. There we go. She's coming in as a speaker shortly. Greg, I just want to give you a chance to really promote your work. I know that you've got my favorite kind of material, which is free and available and on demand on your website, or sorry, on YouTube, I should say. YouTube is just so easy. It's simple. How can people find you on YouTube?
Um, it's as you know, it's a pretty new YouTube channel. I was doing so much radio that I actually really wanted to get a lot of the clips of some of the great radio shows, and of course this show here, Val Olson Radio. So my YouTube channel is, imagine this, my name, Greg Meakin. That once again is GREGMEAKIN. Right now, I think as of this morning, there's over 150 videos, Val.
Wow.
Uh, as of this morning. And oddly, I got a kind of fun notice from YouTube yesterday evening, that my videos have been viewed 5,500 times.
What? No
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, since I launched it, so very, very cool. I really do, from a practical standpoint, I really encourage people to go and click to subscribe, because some YouTube channels, they just have kind of rubber stamp little boring videos every 2 weeks or a few weeks or whatever. But I really try to post really fresh, current stuff. The videos are good. They're short. Some are as short as a minute. Some as long as maybe 4 or 5 minutes. But I really do encourage people to subscribe, because then it'll be downloaded, of course, to folks' news feed or their YouTube feed. So thank you for that opportunity. And as you know, Val, anywhere on my website, there's 4 or 5 different columns: published works, trending, Greg's lists, etc. There's more on there than people can really read, I think. But again, thanks to our secret guest, who I'll introduce in a second, the website's really navigatable, if that's a word, and no pop-up ads, no nonsense. So thank you very much for that couple of minutes to let people know where they can find my work.
I encourage them to go on your website right now because it's different than most websites. You are a boomer who's harnessed tech, and it shows right from the very second you get on your website. Like there's different things on there, and you kind of have to click around a little bit to get to your trending spaces or to the portal where you can buy your book. Because for those of you joining for the first time and don't know Greg Meakin, he has a book or two or three, and maybe another one coming out. I mean, you are at the top, like the very top of just spreading information and beneficial information. Your latest book, Why I Came to America, is available through your website, gregmeakin.com. One of my favorites. It's never far away. Chances are we'll probably touch on that book today because the book has ties to our guest who is coming on in just a minute. Like this is the first guest, Greg, that we've had that is just like ahead of scheduled time. I love it. It keeps me on my toes. So 11 a.m. we are going to bring her in. I'm going through her bio. It's a her today. She identifies as a her. I'm excited to have a special guest woman on the show today. Very exciting. She is part of, I don't want to let too much out of the bag, Greg. So you just tell me what you can share about her before 11 o'clock.
Well, isn't that fun? You know what, Val? We targeted here because of Twitter Spaces kind of flaws with setup. They're still a brand new product, but Twitter Spaces is the cutting edge in radio, as we've talked about. But here we are. It's before 11 o'clock, Val. And that means we are under promising and over delivering, as Toyota used to say. We were like ready, set, go. And I told you on air, I think a couple of shows ago, Val. Our secret guest is an awesome friend and an awesome just person, Wendy Tepley. She's based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and she is the producer of not only my website but a bunch of stuff out there. But as Wendy will attest, she is always on time, ready to go, as she is today. And I'm thrilled actually to be strolling up to 11 o'clock showtime, and we are all present and accounted for. Wendy, just a quick introduction. One of my best friends in the world. I went to high school with her back in the 1970s at Dorval High School in Montreal, 12 miles out of Montreal. Wendy and I go way back, as do a few of other nice friends from Dorval, thanks to Facebook and social media. But Wendy was really integral in my life because, as you well know, Val, in July 2015, that's a long time ago, July 2015, that was the month that right after a certain president called Donald Trump, a candidate, came down the escalator and announced his candidacy. And it was a moment in my life where I just said, okay, I just got to start writing again. I mean, and Wendy was right there with me. I just got to start writing again. And I posted, as you well know, Val, I posted my first political essay, July 2015, called The Top 10 Reasons Why Donald Trump Will Be President. And as you also know, Val, because you do your research, my webmaster at the time of that brand new website, gregmeakin.com, was Wendy Tepley. And she actually, before I posted this thing publicly, because I really hadn't been public in any way with my works, but Wendy wrote me a little email saying, "Are you sure you want to do this, Greg?" Being the Canadian and now brand new U.S. citizen, She said, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because you know the kind of flack you're going to get by even bringing up Donald Trump's name, right?" And so she warned me. And as it turns out, I wrote the very, 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 very first published work on my website. Was my webmaster warned me. And that webmaster was Wendy Tepley. So that's if that's an introduction, a Blobby Greg introduction, it's worth it. And you just take it from here, Val. You got a real, real nice contact here with Wendy Tepley. And I have a funny feeling that much like every one of your secret guests up to this point, I have a funny feeling that you and Wendy are going to be buddies for a long time. So there you go.
Wendy, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you, Val, and thank you, Greg. That's quite the introduction, more than I expected, and I'm tickled to be here. This is brand new territory for me, but I never back down from an opportunity, and it actually feeds into something that I want to start doing this year. So when Greg approached me and mentioned your show, Val, and what you talk about, and it's on Twitter Spaces, I said, why not? Let's do it. So I am thrilled to be here today speaking with you both.
Well, I want to get to the juicy stuff because that's where we get to. Like we go to the meat and potatoes, and you are a mom, you have twins, and you have some grandbabies. So start out with the most important stuff. Tell me about your grandbabies and what's the best part about being grandma.
Wow. Yes, I now have four grandchildren, and my daughters were kind enough to have them one year after another. So they are 4, 3, 2, and 1 year old grandchildren. So as I age, as long as I can remember the age of the first one, I'll be able to accurately, say happy third birthday, happy second birthday. So yeah, I actually have three daughters. I have twins that are now 35, and they each have two. And then I have another daughter who is 33, and she'll be getting married this year. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. And what's the best part of grandchildren? Well, it's kind of cliche, you can go and spoil them and give them back and everything. And yeah, that is the best part. But I think the other most satisfying piece is just knowing that you've brought up daughters, and you can say sons too, if that's the case, who really have listened and have learned along the way and have become great parents themselves, and the appreciation they have for the work that goes into it. So I think that's equally as fun to watch from this end. And I'm sure Greg, you have grandchildren too, and you can attest to doing the hard work as they're growing up, so that when they are grown up and they're having families of their own, you can enjoy all the fruits of their labor and your labor. So yeah, it's great. They're all back in Canada, so I get back as often as I can, and COVID didn't really deter me from getting back there. Two were born before the pandemic and two during the pandemic. I was in Montreal for all three of the births. Now, one of them, the most recent, was actually born in Nova Scotia, so I wasn't able to get to Nova Scotia, but I was still back in Canada when my latest little grandson was born about a year ago. So, yeah, now I have three grandsons and one granddaughter. So, three daughters I had, and now I have the grandson. So it's really nice.
I love that, healthy homes, healthy families, strengthen community. So I really truly believe it takes a village. And I love the picture you painted because as a parent myself right now, I get one shot to do it
Mhm.
right. And I am always keeping that top of mind that, this is the most important work I will ever do on this planet. So no matter what's going on, I always keep an open door, closed door right now as we broadcast, but my kids will, toss notes under the door to let me know if there's something I need to know about or if they need me. And we stop for family emergencies on all sides of this broadcast. So there is no pressure here. We're just going to have fun. I try and keep the show to around 59 minutes, but we do tend to go over because Greg lines up these guests that are just like, I mean, I have no idea what to expect. I have no idea where we go. and then we get going and we get cruising at an altitude where it's just incredible, the stuff that comes out. So I really appreciate that you're taking time with us today and just willing to have a conversation that's real and honest and live. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I understand you have a citizenship story to tell us, a fairly recent one regarding your immigration. Can we start there? And I just want to give you the floor and let you share.
Yeah, well, it's not all that recent. I've had my citizenship since 2015. So, we're going to be coming up 10 years pretty soon on that. It goes by very quickly, but the story really starts back as anybody who is coming from another country, whether it's Canada or elsewhere, knows that, green card is the first thing, or, a work visa that turns into a green card. But, it's, I think that the biggest takeaway from all of this for me is really it's not that easy to get into this country. So my story starts back in 2005, when I guess we'll get into the juicy part of it. I was looking to get into the States mainly because, as Greg said, I went to high school with him. Well, there was another gentleman that I went to high school with who actually was down here in Raleigh and had been here since the mid-90s. He had gotten access to coming down here because he and his mom moved their company from Canada down to Raleigh. So it was a woman-owned business. They were able to get into the States and had numerous work visas, and then those turned into green cards. So backing up to when I reconnected with this gentleman who I went to high school with, lightning struck, and I needed to be down here with him. His business was here. So the next step was for me to start doing the process to get down into the States, which would mean getting a green card. So getting a green card is not easy. At the time when this was all transpiring, because this gentleman, maybe I'll give his name. Should I give his name, Greg?
Greg, are you there?
Greg, are you there? I'm
Oh,
just gonna go ahead because
Bit-
oh,
actually,
you know what? I'm sorry. I was on mute because I just was enjoying the conversation. No, go ahead, Wendy. You're in Val Olson's space right now. This is what we do. This is what we do.
yeah,
Is we talk honestly. Go ahead. Go ahead, Wendy.
actually, I'll give the guy's name. His name is Ralph, one of Greg's best friends, right, Greg? Going through, actually, I think elementary school, you and Ralph have been friends. So you and Ralph go further back than I do. I met Ralph in high school, just like I met Greg. So, fast forward from graduating in 1976, uh, 1976 to 2003, 2004, there were a lot of years that had gone by. So I reconnected with Ralph. He was down here. I was up in Montreal. And the next logical step was, how do we get Wendy down to the States? He was just a green card holder at the time. And a lot of people don't realize that if you marry somebody as a green card holder, you will get sent back to your country of origin to wait for your green card. You don't get the option of staying here and not working, not driving, so not having a social security number, not having a driver's license. No, they will send you immediately back to your country. And at that time in 2005, it would have been, I think, a 6-year wait for me to get a green card. Oh my goodness! Can you imagine that? You're going to marry somebody, and you're going to get sent back to your country to wait for a green card. So the next step was really to get Ralph's citizenship underway. So once you've had a green card for 5 years, you can apply for citizenship. And you can do that 90 days before the 5th anniversary of your green card. So you can see I was very well versed in a time frame of being able to get Ralph's citizenship application in. Another little tip about this too was I did his whole citizenship application, but went to see an immigration lawyer here in Raleigh, paid her for an hour of her time. She told me exactly what I needed to do, how many copies of this, what financial statements. She gave me all the lowdown. So basically, I was down here with nothing else to do but do his citizen application. So got that underway 90 days before his 5-year anniversary of his citizenship, and then felt, okay, this is going to take maybe a month or two. And as soon as he gets his citizenship, the immigration lawyer told me, you just need to apply for a green card based on marriage. And then, that process should take another couple of months. Well, that was not the case. His citizenship probably took 6 to 8 months, I think, to come in. There were delays because of background checks. Don't ask why, but it really took a long, long time for his citizenship to come in. And before I applied for a citizenship, and my memory might be getting a little bit fuzzy, but I was, going back and forth to Canada and back here. And I actually ended up getting pulled into security at the Toronto airport when I was coming back at Easter, and questioned as to, what I was doing going back and forth. So at that point, there was no way I could say, I'm coming down to see a fiance or even a boyfriend, because then they're thinking, oh, you're going to try and immigrate, and you got to start the paperwork, which was not something I wanted to do at that point until his citizenship came in. So, bottom line, they were also wanting to know whether I was working down here. They went through all my stuff, my luggage, my wallet, everything. It was pretty intimidating. They went back in their records to 1995 or 96 and asked me how many times I had been into the States. Luckily, I have a good memory for dates, and I could pretty well tell them how many times we came in that year. We brought the kids down to Disney World. We gone out to California. So once I had answered all of his questions, he reluctantly gave me back my passport. And as I was taking it back, he kind of held on to it for a second. And he says, if you're ever caught working in the States illegally, you'll never get back in. So it was a pretty emotional shakeup getting back into the country that time. And I ended up having to apply for like an extension to my visitor's visa, which any Canadian coming down and spending more than, a couple of weeks holidays really should be having a visitor's visa, which I never had. So I had to go through that whole application of getting a visitor's visa, which meant getting people down here to actually vouch that I was doing things down here. My brother lived down in Florida, so I had him say I needed to go down and dog sit for him. We had another high school friend of ours, Sandy, who was in Charlotte. So I had her write that I was going to go, and stay with her and help her with her kids. So I ended up with having to put sort of like an affidavit together as to why I needed to be able to stay here through the end of that year. And in the hopes that at that point, Ralph's citizenship would be in, we could get married, I could apply for my green card, and life would go on as normal. So just the education of everything you need to do to come visit here, apply for green cards, apply for citizenship. It's I learned more than I ever thought I would know about the whole process. And at one point thought, maybe I could actually market myself. If anybody really wants to know the ins and outs of getting down here, I could help them. But we waited and we waited, and finally his citizenship came in, and we were able to apply for get married, and able to apply for my green card, which was based on marriage. So a green card based on marriage is only valid for 2 years. And it needs to have with it that, you'll be financially supported by the person you're marrying, and a whole bunch of other sort of requirements. So put in for that green card. And this is another thing that a lot of people don't realize when you're putting in for a green card. And again, I went back to the immigration lawyer, got all the information I needed about how to do it properly. And there are 2 other things that you should apply for when you're applying for a green card. And one is called advanced parole. And the other is, I think it's work authorization. I may not have that one right, but it would allow you to work while your green card is in process. Because again, it could be a couple of months, it could be longer before that green card um, is actually awarded. So I put in for the work authorization, and the advanced parole is something that you need if you ever think you're going to have to leave the States and go back to your country or any other country while your green card application is in process. Because if you don't have that advanced parole and you leave the country, they consider it abandoning your application and you start over. So obviously nobody wants to start that over. It's a long process. It's a costly process. I think the green card back then, and we're talking like 2006 or yeah, I guess it was 2006. It was $1,500 for a green card application. And I know things just kept going up. When I did my citizenship, I was looking into the fees, and even the fees for a green card had gone up. So applied for the green card, that cost money. Applied for the advanced parole, that cost money. Applied for the work authorization, and then sat and waited for all of those. And ironically, the advanced parole and the work authorization came within days of my green card. I felt so ripped off that I actually had that ability to work and leave the country. And then in about a week, I had the green card, the green card in my hands. But if you don't have those, and it takes a long time, and for whatever reason you need to leave the country, and I still had my children were up in Montreal, so the last thing I wanted was to be stuck down here and not be able to leave the country. Now, if hell came, hell to high water, however you say it, I would have gone. Nothing stops me from getting back to Canada to see my kids. But it was quite an ordeal just to get that green card. Um, yeah, and then after 2 years, I had to start it all over again because it was based on marriage. So we had to go through the whole process again, and it was basically the same as the first time. All the financials, all the paperwork had to be done. You had to choke up the money again. At least this time too, and back it up to when we were doing Ralph's citizenship and my green card application. There was no immigration office here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was in Charlotte. Now, for anybody who's not familiar with our state, it's not that far, but it was still a 2.5, 3 hour drive every time you needed to go down to the immigration office. We had to get in the car and drive 2.5 to 3 hours to Charlotte to make that appointment. So by the time I was applying for my second green card, there was an office here. So we saved some money and some time by not having to drive to Charlotte. But you've really, you really got to want to do it. And it can be disheartening at times, and, bureaucracy and red tape. And I think most Americans don't realize the process to get a green card. To get into this country, because when I've told this story to Americans, they're flabbergasted. They think we just sort of waltz over the border one day and say, I'm here and I want to marry somebody or I want to work, but it doesn't work that way. And actually, a green card through marriage, I don't know if I say it's one of the easier ways to get a green card. Right now, one of my daughters, she's been thinking about coming down here, my youngest one, for a long time. And she's over 21. She's going to be married soon. But you just over 21, she would have a wait of right now about, I'm going to say 10 years. She looked into it last year. It's about a 10-year wait. Now, I'm a citizen. So this is my daughter. She would have a 10-year wait to get a green card. That is a long time, and you've got to put the application in and pay your money and wait to get a green card. So that's just how difficult it is to get a green card. And going back to the story of, marrying somebody who wasn't a citizen, I was looking at about a 5 to 6 year wait back in 2005. If you were from Britain or the UK at that point back in 2005 and you married a green card holder, I think their wait was about 11 years. So you're going to marry somebody and then go back to the UK for 11 years? Like what? It's like, does that even make sense? And it's all based on the number of green cards that they issue per country, and then how many people are applying. So, the more people are applying, your wait goes up and up and up. So it would be long. It would be 10 years for me to get my daughter down here now. That's ridiculous,
That is
So
incredible.
yeah. you know. Um so yeah, to finish up the story. So got my green card, good for 10 years. After 5 years, I decided I was going to apply for my citizenship. Based on one pretty overriding reason. I was going through a divorce and I wanted my name back. So it was like, you know, let's do it. So yeah, I went for the citizenship in 2015, and a name change as well. So yeah, so, dual citizenship now. Kind of nice to, not have to worry about, rules being changed for green cards. I do have some friends here in the Raleigh area that are from Canada. They're from Winnipeg, and they've been down here a lot longer than me. They've been here, I think, 25 years now, and they've been completely on like work visas. And they had a son down here. The man out of the couple is looking to retire this year. So they've been here a long time. They've established themselves, but they always stuck with work visas, which means, every year, I think it's every year, they got to go back up to the border and apply. There's, some things that you need to do with a work visa, but not everybody goes the green card and the citizenship way. There, pros and cons to both, or all of the options, but like I said, it's just the fact that it's not, you just don't waltz over the border and come into this country and, set up shop or set up house. Um, yeah, and if you, as I was going through all this, I think it was going through the green card, or it was going through the maybe it was the citizenship. And I met this man, and he was going through kind of the same thing. He was from here. He had a wife that was from Poland, or a fiance that was from Poland, and he didn't have all his paperwork completely done. And she came over, got off the plane. I think it was in Boston, and her application wasn't in order, and they turned her around and put her right back on a plane to Poland. And at that point, he was having to hire a lawyer here, immigration lawyer here in Raleigh, and one in Washington, to try and rectify this. And each of them was like $400 an hour, and he said to me, she's a good swimmer. I should have just, put her over the border in Mexico and told her to swim. And it's funny, but it's not funny, type of thing of what people have to go through. And this lady was a PhD, a psychiatrist. She was very well educated, so it's yeah, there needs to be some things done. Anyway, that's good. You guys probably know more on the political side. I know Greg's very into politics. I'm not that into politics and what needs to be done with our immigration and all the rest of it. So if we go down that path, I really, I can add sort of my thoughts on it. But yeah, there's a lot people don't know about their own system here. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I went through to get into this country. But I'm glad to be here.
That's incredible. What a journey. And just listening to the system of how you had to navigate and
Hmm.
just to try and do it legally is incredible.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in my home province of Alberta that are ready to leave. They want out. They want to come to the US. And so it's now becoming very topical and household conversations to say, well, look at where my life is now. I want more. I'm ready to dream. I'm ready to go for it. And of course, everybody looks to the United States of America. I mean, we can see them flooding over illegally, but when you start looking at the legal way of coming here, you are addressing a major concern. And I do think that in Alberta, we are going to see some change happen. And at very least, politicians are absolutely 100% talking about how to navigate this. our government of Alberta recently put out an internal poll that they conducted that showed that 33% of Albertans, which is a very big piece of the pie, want to leave Canada and go to the USA. So this discussion that you're talking about, I think is going to be one of the hot button topics for 2023 and even into 2024. What do you think, Greg?
Boy, you're nailing it once again, Val. And Wendy, I'll tell you what, I love doing shows like this with people that know, and I like reading bios because Wendy, you have the most amazing story. Aggregate 10 years, right? 05 to 2015 aggregate. You have the most amazing story. I didn't know a lot about that. If anything, this is the best part of these shows for me, Val, is really learning something from even our guests that I didn't know. On that issue, you're nailing it in that you and I are enamored with the Alberta 51 USA movement. And I know, and as Wendy mentioned, she as most people aren't political wonks like you and I are, Val, but the conversation here has really spurred some simple thoughts on my part listening to Wendy's. I mean, it's a success story, but it's almost kind of a tragic success story, if you will, with what you had to go through, Wendy. But it comes down to the most simple core issue. I'm here listening here to you guys, to both of you guys, because I know your story too, Val. You've been fighting it for 3 years. And I'm sitting to myself saying, well, wait a minute, whether you're a political wonk or not, just the southern border screwed up, okay? Because people shouldn't be allowed to walk across and not have their 10, 20 years to fight the battles of a standard immigration process with the United States. That said, and I won't get into that discussion, but that said, the Alberta 51 movement on two major issues simply answers all these questions. Number one, the medical crisis that's going on in Canada. We've had this conversation a million times, but Canada gets wonderful health coverage, universal health coverage, but they don't get any care. There's just tragic stories of the Canadian health system. And I believe, like I've said on the air many times, Alberta, USA is the answer. Because, and this might even be cool for Wendy to know, because when Alberta chooses to become the 51st state of the United States, and all it takes really to start the ball rolling is a referendum of more than 50% of Albertans. But if they are able to finally free themselves from the oppression of Canada, they will be able to draft their own state constitution, independent of even the federal government of the U.S. States like Alaska have their own constitutions where they actually pay royalties on oil revenues back to the citizens because of that state constitution. So Alberta 51, by drafting a state constitution that the people want, would be able to guarantee themselves, number one, no BS ever on immigration, ever, because they would immediately, automatically be dual citizens with virtually no process. So it solves the immigration process until somehow the U.S. can get their ducks in a row someday by revamping their immigration process, and as well as Canada. But it solves the immigration issue because just by being an Alberta resident and or citizen, you become a dual citizen. Canada, U.S. I even joke, if Canadians are sentimental, just have them call themselves Canadian Americans, if we want to be politically correct. But it solves the immigration issue. It solves the healthcare issue, but also the immigration issue because, again, all Albertans would be able to work for any U.S. company with virtually no paperwork. There would be no border crossings, etc. So to solve healthcare and the immigration calamity alone, to me, is a reason to vote yes, Alberta 51. I'll leave it at that. But when you mention that statistic, which, by the way, you broke publicly, Val, the 33% of disenfranchised Albertans and
Yeah.
disenfranchised. You publicly mentioned that. I know it was live on the Alberta website at one time, the Alberta government website, but you broke it as a statistic. And if it's 33% right now of disgruntled Albertans, think about it. Most Albertans and most humans up in Canada don't know the actual facts of how easy statehood could be logistically. They simply don't know the facts. And if they saw a simple brochure talking about the facts and of course the benefits, would they rather have $1.75 gas? Would they rather have their groceries a third less than they are now? Would they rather keep all of their billions of oil revenues for their own benefit? Those can be accomplished in one simple stroke of the pen, which is Alberta 51. So if anything, just to add in my mandatory 5, 6, 7 minute 2 cents, I wanted to broach just both those issues, immigration and healthcare. And to this moment, I am stunned. I am stunned with what Wendy went through, and Val, what you are going through, dealing with the nonsense that is U.S. immigration policy.
Well, we could probably talk about immigration journeys all day, but what I do want to talk about is solutions. And Greg, well, I just touch on some solutions here. I'm going to get you to readjust your microphone. The line is a little bit wonky, so you are
Oh, is
cutting
it?
in and out from time to time. So
Oh,
maybe
oh,
pick a it's okay right now, but it has cut out a little bit. So I'm just going to get you to reposition.
sure.
Okay. So
How
on
are
the
we?
note
How
of
are we right now? How are we right now, Val, with this position?
we're good. We're good.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to take a moment and I'm actually just going to follow up on some correction, Greg, because I'm reading through Wendy's bio and amazing. Like, this is a high level conversation for a reason. This is a heavy hitter. If you're just arriving to the show, go back and listen and hear Wendy's journey on immigration from Canada to the USA. But, Greg, just a quick correction regarding my bio, and you publicly shared it with Wendy, and you quoted me as being leader of the Wild Rose Independence Party. That's incorrect. That's actually Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, who was the former leader of the Wild Rose. However, I was the local candidate for the Medicine Hat riding for the Wild Rose Party, and I'm told I lost that provincial election by approximately 300 votes, although it never was recounted. So I just wanted to correct you on that. And Danielle Smith is also the Premier of Alberta, and my home riding of Medicine Hat is now her home riding, and she's a fellow broadcaster. So we've got lots in common. So I can understand how that little hiccup happened, but I just wanted to correct that.
Oh, I love people that are detail oriented like that. You're my favorite undocumented Canadian journalist, and you're just like Wendy. You're very detail oriented, and I really appreciate you correcting the record on that. I love it. I love it.
Let's talk about Wendy's background. And I did sneak on to her website. She designs websites. It's just that's just one of her skills. But it's so impressive, Greg. I mean, your website is one of them, but let's just talk about how Wendy spends her day and everything that she does and is capable of doing.
Wow. Well, thank you for those compliments on the website. And at the beginning, when you were, mentioning Greg's website and how you love it, and it's amazing that site has been around since 2015 with additions to it, but no revamps. It kind of stands the test of time as far as websites when they're, properly designed in the beginning. They can have longevity like that. It was part of, I think, Greg's vision too. Obviously, I had his vision of it wanting to be, very journalistic and clean. And I think those things have helped it still today be, the site it can be. We've rearranged some things from time to time, but I still look back at it and think, dang, that was a good website I designed. But yeah, I don't do as much web development anymore. I've done so much in the digital marketing space, and in my bio, I maybe kind of mentioned a little bit about the background and how I got into digital marketing, which is really once I got down here to the States and was able to work. It was what am I going to do? I really hadn't touched a computer before about 2003, 2004. I was busy being a mom at that point, and got down here, and Ralph had a computer business, software development business, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So with some of his help and just my doggedness to learn something, I taught myself web development. My background way back, like I tell people in my former life, is actually interior design. So in Montreal, that's what I was schooled for, and worked in that industry in commercial interior design for about 10 years before I decided that, I was going to have kids and that was going to be my next career. So went from, a very creative background in interior design to being a mom to getting down here and gravitating towards web design, which was very satisfying from a creative point of view, but really challenging when, I couldn't even copy and paste, a few years previous to that. So learned a lot, and started actually working with a lady here in Raleigh who was getting a fundraising company off the ground, and needed some help with that. And as that progressed along and things started to go sideways, we lost some of our IT people, and all of a sudden I became the person who had to learn the back end of the software of the company and a whole lot of things about databases. So I kind of expanded my technical knowledge of the back end of websites with that experience. And then ended up having met a gentleman at that point who brought an idea from Atlanta back here to Raleigh for a digital marketing company. There was a gentleman in Atlanta who was doing his PhD in online marketing for small businesses, and he was looking into why most small businesses at the time, and this you're going back to 2007, 2008, why those companies were failing to move their traditional marketing into the online space. And he wrote his thesis on that. Jeff, who ended up being my business partner and still is, came back to Raleigh with it and saw that he could turn it into a business and we could actually make money helping businesses do a better job of marketing online. And there was a lot of training we would do with those early clients. So I was in charge of training and teaching them what online presence was. It's more than just your website and maybe a Facebook page. It was everywhere where your business is found online. That's part of your online presence, and you have to be in control of it. And that back then, most businesses didn't see the importance of it, didn't have the foresight to see how important being in control of all of those online assets and being connected to your audience was going to be. But we knew from the research that was going to be key in technology, in a market that was just going to accelerate online. My business partner, Jeff, came from the wireless business, so a communications background, and he understood what the mobile device was going to do, how it was going to revolutionize how people lived their lives, how they purchased, how they made decisions. And it just fed into this thesis, this PhD that Dr. Ruther was doing. So we started a business based on building strong foundations for businesses online. And, it proved itself over and over to the point where after maybe about 4 years of convincing business owners that they needed to do this, they actually started to raise their hand and say, we need help. We need to be online. And it leveled the playing ground between, the big companies who had all the money behind them to have these awesome online presence presences, where these smaller businesses could compete in that market. So it really leveled the playing field. So there was creativity, there was sales, there was technology, there was communication. Everything kind of got rolled into one, and we started running this business. And again, learned everything from the ground up, not just about digital marketing, but about what it takes to actually run a business. How do you grow a business? We always said, working on the business and in the business are two different things, and that's usually the downfall is, people are working in their business and not on their business until the business starts to dry up, and you need to go out and find more business. So we grew the company. Obviously, there's ups and downs to having a company, and we got it to a certain level, and actually we ended up being acquired at the end of last year. So we were acquired by a larger digital marketing agency that's actually out of Chapel Hill here in North Carolina, called Rethink. So it was a great acquisition for us. All of our team came over. Our company, which is Boss Digital, actually still exists. So we still maintain, all of our clients and our name, but we're part of a much larger digital marketing agency that really has a strong background in e-commerce. We do a lot of Amazon and Shopify. We have our whole team of Amazon. They're actually down in Colombia, South America, which is really cool to be able to get on calls with all these people with neat accents who, are in another country. We have a web team that's over in India. We have part of our digital marketing team is out in Boise, Idaho, and then the rest of us are here in North Carolina. So what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis now is a lot of copywriting. So my position really is, chief editor, I guess, for the company. So I do a lot of the copywriting and a lot of the editing of the copywriting. With all the marketing background that I have, it's a much different kind of copywriting than maybe doing a manuscript or a book or things like that. But it's something that I love. I love doing. And as I was mentioning to Greg yesterday when we were chatting, one of my goals this year and moving forward is actually writing my own book. So it's funny how things all sort of come into place and the pieces come together and you're where you're meant to be. So that's.
What
I
part
don't
of
know if
your book?
that's it.
It does. I want to go there. What part of your book are you itching to write about? What do you want the world to know? Give us a sneak peek.
Oh, gee. It's good. I've had so many bizarre things and interesting stories that I haven't even told you, happen in my life that it's going to be based on some of my own life story, but with some really interesting, dysfunctional, deep characters. It's the kind of stuff I love to write, and I'm passionately interested in what makes people tick. So it's going to be very character oriented and, keep you guessing as to, why people are doing what they're doing and how, things kind of all relate together and the consequences of actions and things like that. So, I just really, starting to formulate what I'm going to do. My time is obviously a lot freer now that I'm not actually working on a business. I could just work in a business. So and knowing that Greg has written so many books too, I think it's going to be great to reconnect. We sort of some years it's gone that Greg and I speak once or twice a year, and then other times it's been a lot more frequent. So I'm really looking forward to the coming year and years of reconnecting with people. I think you guys have spoken about Diane Williams, another one of our Dorval alumni who, I'm still in touch with, who edited Greg's book. So I have, and she's been a girlfriend of mine since grade 4 or grade 3 or grade 4. I've known Diane. That's how far back we go. So, there's another connection that I have that's in the writing world. So, it's just like all falling into my lap going, hello, the writing universe is bringing you the love here. So It's time.
You're speaking of Diane Williams, who did write a foreword for Greg. I actually have it in front of me, so I'm going to quickly read it so those listening online can learn a little bit more about Diane Williams, why I came to America, and what I think now. Kudos to Greg for sharing his honest, quick-witted personal memories of life in Canada and the United States. His brief snippets on a variety of topics and political views will be pondered, raise questions, and even anger some. That's how Greg wants it. Throughout the book, the reader is captivated by factual anecdotes and humorous Gregisms, as he states. Hopefully, this book will make a splash somewhere. Well, yes, it has. And it has scored a long awaited overtime goal. Diane Williams, retired RN and professor of nursing. Will Diane be making, will we hear about her in your book, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, one of my best girlfriends. It's, again, years went by and, we didn't talk, but you get back together and it's like no time has passed. And there's that commonality of where we came from and how we met, commonality of, our parents kind of they came from the same generation, but kind of the same mindset, those parents that were raising kids in the 60s and everything had to be proper, and the suburban, and my mom was so much like that. What the neighbors thought was paramount to her, and the white picket fence, and I tell people stories. This is a true story. My brother and I had to be in the house and all cleaned up at the end of the day. So when my dad came home, this is like the 50s, this was the 60s. We were, spick and span and clean. And we would look out the window and our friends would be outside on the street playing after supper. And we were stuck in the house because it just had to be that way. It had to be the kids were behaved, they were clean, the day was over, it's time to calm down. So, yeah, and I don't know whether Diane has a similar story, but yeah, her parents were very much that way too. So yeah, it's interesting when you have those kind of ties to people from an era, from a where you were brought up, how you were brought up. Those last a lifetime, and they form some bonds that other things down the road where, maybe you've worked with people or you've met them in other social settings. But when you have background that comes from so far back, when in those formative years, it stays with you. So,
Do you think
yeah.
it influences your perspective today, or do you feel those were good things or bad things? And for those people that decided to shake it off, is that the right thing to do, or how do you compartmentalize those experiences?
Well, I think in this, maybe it's at this point in my life, but just my perspective on it is, it all, not that it necessarily had its time and place, but it all happens for a reason. So I don't begrudge any of that. I look at it as, the positive side of what it gave me, and I try and understand it on a more deeper level than on a surface of what it really meant to me. So what was my mom going through? What was her life like? How did it really affect me? What are the repercussions? And I had this conversation with my daughter when I was back at Christmas. One of my daughters, about, oh, I'm never going to be like my mom, and what things do you find yourself doing that are like your mom, and things that, yeah, you truly haven't repeated. So I find studying all of that really, really fascinating. So I don't begrudge any of it or try and sweep it under the carpet or paint it, with paint it black.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part and parcel of what life is about. It's the messy, awkward stuff. Life is messy and awkward. And if
Oh,
you're
I
not
love
willing to
it.
go there, yeah. I got to give Brene Brown some credit for messy and awkward. She uses those terms, and I think it's so good. And anytime I say that to people, it resonates with them. People don't think of it that way, but life is messy and awkward. Get used to it. Get over yourself.
I can't wait for your book. I cannot wait for your book. Greg, I don't want to hog all the, Q&A time here. So you just jump in there, my friend, whenever you have a question.
Oh, Val, you know a radio show is good when you just sit back as the guest and you're listening to it like a radio show, and it's really entertaining. I've just enjoyed listening to both of you talk. I really mean it. I'm learning something and I'm enjoying it. But as usual, I'll put in a few 2 cents, right, Val? Even if it's 2 cents Canadian funds. Uh,
And then we
two
don't make the
things.
penny any longer for any of
That's
you
right.
down here that think there's a Canadian penny. It doesn't exist.
Oh, Wendy, don't even go there. I'm going to write something about Canadians are the only ones crazy enough to have money called a loonie
I
or a
love
toonie. I
it.
mean, that's just crazy to Americans. Anyhow, I'm digressing once again. I want to bring up two quick points. Number one, and Val, we and Wendy, you're learning too. We bust news stories right on the air live, right, Val?
Yes,
We bust
absolutely.
stuff right, and that's what it's all about. That's what long form radio is about. That's what live radio is about. That's what the Val Olson radio show on Twitter Spaces is all about. Number one, I've evolved in my little happy, crazy Maslow, what do I do when I'm grown up world. And thanks to people like you, Val, and honestly, thanks to people like you, Wendy, and stuff, I've been given kind of an epiphany on my end, really in the last, I'm telling you, like maybe 30 days. And that is my two roles in life right now are to be, number one, a publisher, and number two, a producer. And for some reason, it is just, when something's godly, it just comes to you. You say, okay, a producer and a publisher, and there's a lot of chat behind that. But so in the publisher world, I'm going to offer both of you something right here live on the air. Val Olson, my favorite undocumented Canadian journalist, who's the best researcher. Wendy, she'd give you a run for your money. I'll tell you what, this gal, Val, as she says, I don't know if she's been chasing me for a year or I've been chasing her, but this gal, Val Olson, gets information from me that I really mean it. It is just, as I say, secrets from the inside. That's my brand. But I'm going to offer both of you something, and I think we're all really busy and it's hard to do things like write manuscripts and publish books because we're all so busy. But I'm going to offer to coordinate Val Olson, you publishing your first book. You've got two or three in the hopper as well, but you publishing your first book to release. Wendy Tepley, I know you're a busy gal, but whether it's sometime in 2023, I'm offering you basically to coordinate the publishing of your first book and just be your partner and your life coach and your everything, but also pull the trigger on it. I know how to get a book out in 48 hours. So that's a formal offer to both of you, whether it's just a little post-it note question, as Val and I have had full episodes on post-it note business plans and post-it note conversations. If it doesn't fit on a post-it note, it's too bloody complicated, right?
I love it.
So that's my offer live on the air to both of you. And now it gives me license to kind of hound both of you a little bit. I have no idea. I have no idea how I'm going to find time for it. I'm serious. But now that I'm a publisher and producer in my brain, I'm going to make time for it. And most importantly, not to bring this so full circle, I really mean this. I've been overwhelmed in the last couple of months, just with just call them opportunities, including sitting on this radio show right now with my old best buddy, Wendy. Man, this is exciting to me. It still is. But when I've had such an overwhelming kind of, and you know how it goes. It just inquiries and opportunities, and would you publish my book? Would you help me with my book? Would you help whatever? That I have no idea how I'm going to do it. And I also have two major events coming up in 2023, which I'll do a press release on soon. But I have no idea how I was going to even tackle all that work, or help Wendy or help Val coordinate these big events coming in 2023 that are in different cities. And honestly, it just came from God. It just came from God. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. Don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Don't know anything, but I just know I'm surrounded by the most amazing circle of trust, knowing that I'll get it done. Not alone, but with a whole bunch of people's help. So I'm committing to actually aggressively publish stuff, including my fourth book, which I'm just dogging it on because the world changes. The world changes every day. I'm behind the times publishing something with yesterday's news. But to finish publishing my fourth book, which is called Why I Came to America, and Can We Even Fix This Mess? Uh, I commit to help Val to her first book, and my friend Wendy Tepley to her first book. So that was the first point I wanted to make. The second, I would like to reach out to Wendy here. The last time, and I want her to dig down deep in the archives of memory, not 10 years ago. The last time I actually visited with Wendy face to face, but it was in Seattle, Washington. It was about, I'm going off of memory, it was about 10 years ago, but it involved the USO.
Oh my God.
And as a
Yeah.
side note, that day I introduced Wendy Tepley, my buddy who just flew in from Raleigh, to the commander of the USO, a nice gentleman named Don Lingang, and the marketing director of the USO. And I'm gonna just toss that little tennis ball right in your court, Wendy. And you tell that little story from what you remember, because it was the last time I saw you face to face. And it was a memorable time. Go ahead on that one.
Wow. Well, you may remember a little bit more than I do, but yeah, it has to be about 10 years ago, which would put it, what, 20? Oh no, it was longer ago than that, Greg. I can tell you that.
2010. It was
It was
2010.
2010, so you're talking 13 years ago. Wow, what's a couple of years, right? Well, because this was still in my days of helping the lady with the fundraising company here, and the USO was one of the nonprofits that we were helping here in North Carolina. And when I had plans to go out to Seattle, first of all, seeing Greg, hadn't seen you since probably 1976. So do the math on that. It's a lot longer than 13 years. So just meeting up with you again, Greg, and getting to hang out with you. But yeah, you had this great contact with the USO in Seattle, and we went. It was at the airport, I believe, right? Which is where a lot of was it at the airport where we went to see them, where the office was?
Yeah, it was the SeaTac International Airport, second floor. It was where the commander's office was, and basically it was the reception area for all the guys coming in and out on planes. And it also had the Gary Sinise guitar on the couch, which I wrote a story about. So go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah. Well, I just remember being in awe of first of all, meeting somebody who was a commander and at that level, and what they were trying to do and how we might be able to help them, and just the whole operation there of, I hadn't been in this country all that long, I guess at that point, maybe 4 years full time, but just being around people the military and the guys coming in who were on their way out to be deployed. It was just a really neat experience. It was the real thing. It's like what you see in the movies. It felt like I was on a movie set, actually. It was kind of like a surreal experience. And the commander was just really friendly. I think I'm still connected with him on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So it's like, wow, I felt pretty important. So yeah, I haven't forgotten that. I haven't thought about it in a lot of years, but yeah, it was a great experience. Really sort of unexpected that I was going to be in that kind of milieu. So thank you, Greg.
What's interesting is I was passionate about your cause because I really had never been involved in the fundraising world and the foundation world, which you were down in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the product that you were promoting,
oh gosh, yeah,
was My Military Discounts.
Yeah, you're right. My God, your memory is good, Greg. It was
okay.
part. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. For my,
It was part of
my
yeah, that was the discounts we were doing
okay.
for the military. But yeah, the whole fundraising company was not only around military. We were helping all sorts of
Sure. Sure.
nonprofits. But yes, we had
Sure.
created this special discount card just for military nonprofits. So yeah, that's why we had the USO as one of our nonprofits for my military discount. So the idea was, we as a company and the nonprofits as well would help us to get discounts from local merchants so that anybody purchasing the card could then use it to get discounts. Now you're going back, 2009, 2010. It was
Yeah.
a physical card. It was like those entertainment books with all the coupons. We're talking just emerging technologies weren't even there about how people can, get coupons and all the rest of it. So it was
The
really kind of what we call old school. So it was actually a physical card that was connected to discounts that, you could then buy the card and get the discounts, and a certain portion of that card purchase was given to the nonprofit.
the reason why I was so fascinated at the time, because we really connected for about a year there. I was so fascinated because not only the mission of the military families, helping military families get discounts within their local area. I love that. That a portion of everything was going to go to the USO and or military causes. I love that. But most importantly, Wendy, my doctors told me I have pre-dementia, but I just can't figure that out, why he says that. Because going on memory here, what I was so fascinated with about what you were doing is you were a couple of years ahead of the curve in producing what was called an app.
Yeah.
App at the time that you struggled with in
Yeah.
Raleigh with the IT. They cost
Yeah.
thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to produce. And I won't get into the business story of that company back
Yeah.
there, but they didn't get it done. But now I hear when a 14-year-old can create an app right on their phone in 30 seconds, I recognize that you were ahead of the curve on that, Wendy, and your company, your foundation down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was actually technically tied to GPS locating because you're always dealing with the location of that military family. So it was almost kind of had a little GPS maps base to it too. So that's
Yeah.
what I was finding. But what I do want to pick your brain, because I'm bringing you back memory lane here. The meeting we actually had in the USO, we were sitting at a table. Do you recall anything of that meeting, or do you have like a 60-second review of that meeting in your mind if you remember it?
Not at all. I'm being totally honest. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's so fun. That's so fun because we walked out.
But
We
if
walked
you tell
out.
the story, Greg, if you tell the story, I'll tell you whether it's right or not, because it will come back to me.
No, it's so fun. You almost made the point in a fun way. By the way, I remember everyone who was at the meeting, and I remember how long the meeting was and everything. But we walked out, Wendy, because you were so professional. You were dressed in a business suit. It was such a professional meeting. It really was. I think it might have been back in the days where I still owned a shirt and tie, maybe back in those days.
Oh, man.
And we walked out and we strolled down the sidewalk in front of SeaTac Airport, waiting for Ralph to pick us up. And you looked at me and you said, "That's the most amazing experience I've ever had. I simply couldn't believe the level of boardroom conversation it was." And I'm going to say, because you won't remember it, from back then, but you said, "Greg, I can't believe how you took charge of this meeting and just coordinated it like whatever." And so we took a quick little minute there. It was about 30 seconds, but I remember everything in life, and I'm almost sad to say, yeah, I remember everything of that meeting. But it was such a number one. It's the last time I saw you, but the last time we did. I mean, we never had done business together.
No.
So it was a.
Now, do you remember what happened after that meeting?
Well, aren't we being a Wendy giving me more questions? No, go ahead. No,
You don't.
go
Oh,
ahead.
Greg.
I'm gonna rename you Val Olson here. Okay.
Don't
Go ahead.
don't
Let
do
me
yeah.
let me know that story.
Yeah, because yeah, you were in the car with Ralph and I. Remember, we had his cousin lived out in Seattle, and
That's right.
he had lent us his M5 BMW, and we were coming out of the airport, and we got rear-ended. Don't you?
I
You don't remember?
remember it well.
Yeah. And it was like, oh my God. Now, it wasn't a bad rear end. This was even the funnier part of the story was that it wasn't really a rear end, or somebody touched the back end of our car. We felt it, and we got out, and there really wasn't a scratch on the car. We probably shouldn't have done this. We said, we're okay, you're okay. And we drove away, got back that evening to his cousin's place, gave him the car keys back. We didn't say anything. This is really starting to sound like we were immature. But anyway, we didn't say anything. We're out for supper that evening with his cousin, and his cousin goes, did somebody hit the back of my car? We should have said something earlier. There was he was meticulous about this car, and there was probably the tiniest of scratch that you probably need a magnifying glass to see. But his cousin actually did end up finding that somebody had hit us in the back. So I don't know, maybe that muted my memory of the rest of the day. But I'll never do that again. Not own up to giving a car back to somebody and not saying that we'd had a little ding on it. But anyway, you were in the car, Greg. Yeah, and we got rear-ended coming out of the airport.
Now that it's because we're talking 13 years ago. Now that I'm more wise about the insurance world and stuff, I was sitting in the back seat. You and Ralph were chit chatting. We were talking about the USO meeting, and this a fellow just kind of bumped the back of your car. And if I'd been smarter now than I know about the insurance industry in the United States, if I'd made a scene, and you never know. Oh yeah, I'm actually not feeling real well right now. What's your insurance company's name?
Yeah.
And let me have them send me a check. But
What were
it
we
was fun.
thinking?
It was funny though. It was funny knowing that after that whole day we got into a cute little car accident. That was memorable. But that's the last time I saw and worked with you, Wendy. And that's if anything, that's why I have such fond memories of it. Seriously.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's fun. It's fun to remember back. So no, I appreciate you remembering more than I did about the meeting. But yeah, I was just really in awe that I was in the presence of presence of the military, and like you said, the last time I had seen you before that was high school. And we all matured a lot since high school. So it was like, wow, this is the all grown up Greg that I haven't seen in 25 years or whatever it had been. It'd been a lot of years. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Yep.
So after the meeting, you left inspired, and you two kind of teamed up after many years apart. What went on to happen? What did you guys work at and accomplish together?
Well, the website, I guess, is where it started.
Yeah.
You must have reached out.
The
No,
website.
I was doing I did one. You had me doing something for the Bremerton rink. I was building a website, and there was another one before your gregmeakin.com. I started working on a couple of other websites for you.
Yes, it was. Now there's your good memory, Wendy. Coming back. It's coming back. You get on the Val Olson show. We're smarter. Our memories get better. It's just great. But, seriously.
Is this where Grego fits in, ties in a little bit?
No, that was down the road in a text message. I'm gonna say not that long ago, not going back that far. And somehow, I don't know if it was a typo that I texted him, and he liked it. So it's okay, Grego.
No, Grego goes back to high school. It was the Getz,
Really?
Getz.
Huh.
Get. And you said, where did
Oh,
that
get.
word come from?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, pulling your memory back once again.
Huh.
You between the USO and and GregMeakin.com in 2015, which was literally, it was so big to me because I knew it was launching a national platform based on
Mhm.
political writing, which I really hesitated to do. I told you that in 2015. But in
Yeah.
between that, I had asked for your help because I was going to do a website dedicated to documenting and analyzing Bremerton Ice Arena that I built in Bremerton.
Yeah.
Because only people like you and people like my friends in Montreal with hockey understood what an accomplishment that was, and understood really, now that I'm being asked about it a lot, what an incredible story it was.
Yeah.
And so you actually worked on that. I don't think anything ever got produced or released. I'm not sure, but that was that website back then. And so it was about 3 kind of major jobs over the course of 20 years that we worked together. And again, we've come a long way since 1976, Wendy. But you know what? We were the same people back then. We were
Yeah.
still the same. You had said something to me. This is why I love long form radio, because I can listen to myself talk for so long. It's great.
Yeah.
But when we met for the USO meeting, as a matter of fact, it was Ralph, your amazing techie husband, who had created a website for Dorval High, which was dhs.com, I think.
Yep.
For all the alumni. That was connecting everybody before Facebook, right? You remember that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I assume, because you're way smarter than Ralph, that you did most of the work on that website. I'm not sure, but but
I will. I
you
will
had
correct.
said to
Yeah,
me,
I will correct you there. No, I didn't. Yeah.
okay, I think he and Bob Brannigan did that, but anyhow. But you had said, because of Ralph's involvement in the high school website, you were very involved in the door, and you ran you helped coordinate the reunion. So
Yep.
you took me aside in Seattle at the USO meeting, and I said, "What's with everyone getting so old now? Like, I can't believe how old we all are." Right? I just, and that wasn't even 2023, where I now look like my grandfather. Right. So,
Oh
but you took
God.
me aside, and what you said to me, and I remember it to this day, I remember it like moving forward, was you said, it's amazing when you meet people from like even 30, 40 years ago, Greg, you, within minutes, you just see who they actually were. You remember them, how they were. You get past kind of the look,
Yeah.
especially on my and the old guy look. And I remembered that forever because it's true. It's
Mm-hmm.
true. And you and I sitting live on Val Olson's radio show right now, I think it's full testament that good things come around.
Yeah.
If it was meant to be, it's meant to be. And so there you go. Now I'll pass it back to anybody, just so that you can stop Greg from talking here.
I got nothing.
Oh, come on.
Why don't you? I got something. Why don't you guys talk behind my back, and when do you tell everybody how great I was in high school? How about that? I'll close my eyes. I'll close my ears here. Okay, that's something for you, Val. You never get at a loss for words, Val. Come on.
Well,
I don't even know what to say. I mean, I've got nothing. I officially have nothing else to say. I've got a zillion questions, but I have to form them into words.
oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. To Greg's point, Greg is the same person that he was. Obviously, he's matured. We all have. But what makes him laugh, what makes him tick, his quirky sense of humor. Um, yeah, just saying what he feels. All of those things were there. It's just a mature version now. Sometimes it's a mature version. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, there's a little bit more sophistication to it now. But, got to cut everybody slack. We think we're so, sophisticated and mature when we're in high school. We've got the world by the tail and we know everything. And it's like, oh my God. It was just like we were just so young then. But that's the neat thing about it too, because you don't have any limitations, and we should all live our life like that, no matter what age you are. Live without limits. So yeah, we got to tap into that more often and stop worrying about things.
That's good. That's really good life advice. I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Wendy. You don't know me. You only
No.
learned about me through Greg, and you took the time. You shared from your heart. You allowed me to ask questions right across the board. That means a lot. And to my trusted co-pilot, Greg, as always, I don't know if I'm chasing you or you're chasing me, but I had fun, and this was pure joy. And you guys have shared so much information that I know is high level important information. And this broadcast it's going places, but it will always be here and available to both of you. So thank you. Another high level talk at the top wraps up for today.
Thank you. I'm